All right, let's dive in. Today, we're going to master one of the most powerful tools in all of SQL, the group by statement. Seriously, if you've ever felt like you're just drowning in data, this one command is your key to finding the real story hidden inside. So, let's get to it.
You know, it's true. Every single table, every row, every cell in your database has a story to tell. But when you're looking at thousands, maybe even millions of individual rows, how do you even begin to listen? How do you get from just a wall of raw data to an actual useful insight? Well, that is the exact problem we are going to solve today.
So here's our game plan. We'll kick things off with the challenge of raw data, then really get our heads around the core idea of grouping. After that, we'll build our very first summary query, level it up with some cool new tricks, and finally, see how it all comes together to turn simple rows into powerful insights. Okay, first things first. Let's talk about the problem. The very thing that makes data so valuable, all that detail, the sheer volume of it, is also what can make it so incredibly overwhelming. Taming this raw data is always the first crucial step.
I want you to picture this. You walk into a huge library, but every single book has been thrown into one giant pile in the middle of the floor. All the knowledge is technically in the room, but trying to find a specific answer? Almost impossible. That giant, messy pile of books? Yep, that's your raw data table.
So, how do we bring some order to that chaos? The answer is grouping. This one simple idea is going to totally transform how you see your data. It's how we turn that messy pile into a perfectly organized shelf of answers. Okay, let's try another analogy here. Lego bricks. Imagine you've got a giant, messy pile of them, all different colors. That's your data. Step 2 is sorting them. You start making smaller piles based on one thing they have in common, their color. So you get a red pile, a blue pile, a yellow pile, and so on. Then step 3 is where the real magic happens. You do something to each of those new groups, like count how many bricks are in each pile. That's a simple process. Sort into groups, then summarize. That is exactly what group by does. And here's the official definition for you. Group by takes all the rows that share the same value in a column, like our brick colors, and it collapses them all down into one single summary row. Then we use something called an aggregate function, like count, to get one calculated value for that entire group.
All right, enough theory. Let's put this into practice. It's time to watch a messy table transform into a clean, insightful summary right before our eyes.
Okay, so here is our before picture. It's a customers table with individual customers from Germany, Mexico, the UK, all over the place. Now, if I asked you, hey, how many customers do we have in each country? You'd have to scan this whole thing and start counting with your finger. It's slow, it's tedious, and you'd probably make a mistake. This is our business question. It's simple, it's direct, and it is exactly the kind of question Group By was made to answer in, like, a fraction of a second.
And this is the magic spell that gets us the answer. Let's break it down real quick. We're telling the database, select the count of customers, and also show me the country from our customers table. And now for the key part, group everything by the country column. This tells the database to make all those little piles, one for each country, before it starts counting. And boom! Check this out. This is our after picture. All of those individual rows are gone, transformed into this perfect little summary. We can instantly see the exact number of customers for every single country. I mean, this is the power of moving from raw rows to real results. That was awesome, right? But believe it or not, we can do even more. Now that we've got the basics down, it's time to level up our queries. We're going to look at sorting and joining, two things you'll absolutely need to get real-world insights. So our summary is useful, but it's kind of random, right? Which country has the most customers? The least. By adding one simple clause, order by, to the query we just wrote, we can sort the results and make the biggest takeaways just jump right off the screen. And once that data is sorted, visualizing it becomes incredibly powerful. A simple bar chart like this tells a story instantly. You don't have to read the numbers anymore. You can just see your biggest markets at a glance. So remember, grouping and ordering, they're the first steps to making really great charts. Okay, now for a more realistic problem. A lot of the time, the info you need is split up across multiple tables. For instance, our orders table might have a shipper ID number, but the actual company name is in a totally separate shippers table. How do we connect those dots? So as you can see here, the shipper ID is the common thread that ties these two tables together. Look at the orders table on the left. Order 10248 has shipper ID 3. Now glance over to the shippers table on the right. Shipper ID 3, That's federal shipping. So to answer our question, we first have to tell the database to join these tables together using that shared ID, and then we can group them up.
And here's the full query that gets the job done. Now, I know it might look a little complicated, but I promise it's just a sequence of logical steps. First, we select the columns we want. Then, we join the two tables together on that common shipper ID. And finally, once they're linked up, we group everything by the shipper's name to get our final summary. And would you look at that beautiful result? A clean, simple table that directly answers our question, how many orders did each shipper handle? We just took data from two separate places and summarized it into one single actionable insight. That, right there, is the real power of SQL.
Okay, let's wrap this up by quickly going over the core tools that make all of this possible. Because it's not just about group by on its own. It's about the essential functions that work together with it to do all the math. So throughout this whole explainer, we've been using counting to count things up, but there are a bunch of others, like sum to add values, average for averages, max for the biggest value, and min for the smallest. So what's the official family name for all of these functions? The answer is aggregate functions, and the name makes total sense, right? They take an aggregate, which is really just a fancy word for a whole collection of values, and they perform one calculation to spit out a single summary value. Counting items, summing up sales, finding an average price, these functions are the real workhorses of data analysis.
And it all comes back to this one powerful concept. The ability to group your data is one of the most fundamental skills you can have in analysis. It is literally the bridge that takes you from raw data to true understanding. Oh, and a quick pro tip. On really huge tables, grouping can sometimes be slow. Making sure the columns you're grouping by are properly indexed, that's a key performance trick in the real world.
So there you have it. We've gone from a chaotic library of data to a neatly organized summary. We've turned thousands of rows into clear, actionable insights. The only question left is, what stories and what amazing patterns are hiding in your data, just waiting to be discovered?